Welcome to Returning to Life, a video podcast series presented by the BC Brain Injury Association. Our mission is to promote awareness, education, and support for individuals living with acquired brain injuries and their families across British Columbia. Our organization works to improve quality of life by connecting people to resources, advocating for better services, and fostering a greater public understanding of brain injuries and their long-term effects. Through collaboration, outreach, and education, the BC Brain Injury Association strives to build more inclusive and supportive communities for those affected by brain injury. In this video podcast, we will share real stories of resilience and rediscovery after brain injury. In each episode, we will hear from survivors who are finding their way back to work, to love, to creativity, to identity, and to the things that make life meaningful. These are short stories of courage, connection, and the many different ways we return to life after everything changes. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, I'm Bailey. I'm a director on the board of the BC Brain Injury Association, and this is Janelle, our executive director. And today we have a special guest, Deb, a brain injury survivor, who is here to share part of her story with us, her journey of returning back to work. This is part one of a multi-episode story. So welcome, Deb. Thank you for being here. Share with us to begin why this particular story is so dear to your heart and needs to be shared.
I look at my life and there is a distinct and complete change which happened in a split second due to brain injury. Well, you can go along for so many years, you have your plans, your goals, everything in place. Then you are in a totally different environment because of brain injury. So the reason this is so important to me is I knew when I was in recovery stages after injury, in the months, in the years that followed, I struggled so much in trying to express to people what was going on, trying to relay and get across and in communication what I was feeling, my frustrations, my desires, and it was a very big impossibility for me at the time because I suffered from really severe memory loss and speech loss. So there I was, locked in myself, and it was a big frustration and a very terrifying experience. I knew when I began to recover and was able, with the help of many therapists, to get back on track, just how many people there are out there who are left in that situation. If they do not have resources, if they do not have help, they're stuck there. And I cannot imagine my life if it had remained stuck there. So that's my passion. Somewhere out there, there are still people struggling to get their point across. How will that happen? I don't know, but I hope I can be some words and a voice for some of those people.
Wow. And remind us, Deb, where are you joining us today?
I am joining you from the sunny Okanagan Valley, which is home of the Syilx Okanagan tribe. And we are respectfully on their unceded territories where they remain stewards of this land. And I appreciate and thank them for being able to live and work here.
Thanks so much, Deb. So let's set the stage for our listeners today in you just kind of describing what life was like at work before you had your injury.
Sure, thanks, Bailey. Work was an extremely busy place. I worked as a legal secretary and for a personal injury lawyer. So it was kind of ironic that I worked for him doing all these files and all this intense work on personal injury until I became personally injured. Then I was on the flip side of life. But in the office, during the time that I was employed by him, my specific job was dealing with our clients who had been in very severe injury situations. I met with them. We prepared cases for court. We were back and forth in communications on a regular basis. That was an intense job. It took a lot of focus. It took a lot of staying on top of things, communicating well. And I felt good about it. I liked getting to the end of the day, checking my boxes, finishing things up. I'm a type A kind of person, so that was a good thing for me.
Mhm. And so, what drew you to this type of work initially?
I think I was always the kind of person that was interested in helping other people. And I I thought, well, this is a really interesting career. It's a great way to work with people. It's a great way to help people. And I never really had what it took to be a nurse and work in a hospital. I have high respect for them. But I thought, next best thing, maybe I can work in this kind of environment, still help people get through a big problem area in their life.
So it sounds like it was really rewarding for you, hey?
Oh, it was deeply rewarding. It was, I met a lot of great families. I met a lot of people. And in the process of what we did see some good results. We also came up against a lot of frustrations as well, which was part of my drive in going, okay, we've got to do better. Let's push harder. Let's see some good things happen. So it was a very the environment there was just to my nature what worked well.
How much of that helped you after your accident? Did that inspire you? Was it a little bit disarming that you had knowledge about the process?
Well, quite frankly, Janelle, I would say it was terrifying. um, there's this old expression that says ignorance is bliss. And that's quite true. And when you find yourself on the complete opposite end of things, you are now the patient. You are now the brain injury survivor. And you know full well that when you look back at what I did in the office, you are facing a monumental uh, piece of life ahead of you. And yeah, I mean, it was good in the fact that perhaps I knew some of the doors to knock on, but it was disheartening because I also knew this is going to take extreme effort, and I was nowhere near that.
Mhm. Tell us, Deb, too, what life was like outside of work when you were working. What was busy there too?
Well, yeah, it was because I'm the kind of person that likes to fill my plate. I was involved in all kinds of things. So I worked as, of course, I worked as a legal secretary. Outside of that, I enjoyed volunteering in my community. So I volunteered as a conversationalist with new immigrants coming into the country who were learning English. So I would give a couple hours a week to sit down and have conversations with them so they could learn English. I was involved in music and singing. I was involved in cycling. So I rode with two different groups. We did a lot of different marathon rides, etc. Oh, yeah, and I had a family. So I was involved in all of their day-to-day lives. My children were not young at the time of the accident. My son and my daughter were both in university, and my middle son had just married.
So knowing that
So
this happened to your entire family, then Deb, like, and they knew your work, like, how was that for them in these early days?
I would say for them, it it also was a very sobering and really unsettling time. They knew because, of course, they're older, they're not little children. My daughter was going into nursing, my son was going into social work, and the realization that, whoa, hey, there goes mom into the same realm as people we're working with. They saw with their eyes wide open what that could look like. And suddenly that was their mom. I was uh, I was not the same person. They, of course, as I mentioned, communication was a real hurdle. Um, Depression, I suddenly found myself a very, very depressed person, suffering from fatigue, suffering from complete lack of motivation. So you can imagine how that was a bucket of ice water thrown on my family.
absolutely, it's so tough when our families watch us go through something so hard. So tell us, just to wrap this up before we move on, tell us about the accident. Set the stage for kind of what happened leading up to and what it was like.
Sure, Bailey. So, as I mentioned, yes, I'm working in my office, and because I'm a real busy bee, it wasn't enough to just go to work. I had to take on some kind of extracurricular project with the other offices in town. So I knew the bike to work week was coming up, and I thought, aha, perfect time to motivate the rest of the staff, get them all on their bikes riding to the office. So this I did with great enthusiasm, and it was going well. We were at the last and final Friday of the Bike to Work campaign, and I was feeling really good about what we had accomplished. So I was riding home from the office on my bike, cycling home, and I was hit by a pickup truck. In that instant, I was thrown 30 feet off the road. I landed on my head, unconscious in a ditch, and that driver carried on. He left the scene. It was horrendous. And even now, when I think about it, it is a horrible feeling of complete worthlessness. I often weep over the fact that my life could not have mattered very much if I could just be left face down in a ditch.
Wow.
So it was a pretty horrible place.
Yeah.
It was a pedestrian that found me there. They called 911, and of course, I was rushed to hospital. Um, it was a matter of struggling to deal with all the external injuries. I stayed in hospital while that was attended to. And although it was acknowledged, oh yeah, yeah, bang on the head here, that this will be a concussion. I don't feel that the gravity of the situation was fully understood at the time. It
Yeah.
was, yep, let's patch this girl up, get her on her way. And it was so, so far from those superficial injuries.
Wow, that's really actually quite traumatic. So we're actually going to pause right here on this cliffhanger, and I know you have so much more to share. So this is just the first part of your story, Deb. And I know that in the next episode, we're going to continue to talk about this journey and how you navigated it. So thank you everyone for tuning into this first part of Deb's story and the video podcast, Returning to Life.
Thank you for listening to this video podcast, Returning to Life. If today's story moved you, it would mean a lot if you shared it with someone who might need to hear it. These voices matter, and every story helps build connection, hope, and understanding. Thank you again for joining us.